Hey y'all, it is I, Dizzy81, and I'm here to address the whole Assassin's Creed Unity debacle. Ubisoft is said to be releasing Assassin's Creed Unity at graphical parity between the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Quote, "We decided to lock them at the same specs to avoid all of the debates and stuff. Technically, we are CPU bound. The GPUs are really powerful. Obviously, the graphics look pretty good, but it's the CPU that has to process the AI, the number of NPCs that we have on screen, all of the systems running in parallel. We were quickly bottlenecked by that, and it was a bit frustrating because we thought that this was going to be a tenfold improvement over everything AI-wise, and we realized that it was going to be pretty hard. It's not the number of polygons that affects the frame rate. We could be running at 100 frames per second if it was just graphics, but because of AI, we are limited to 30 frames per second. Senior Producer Vincent Pontbriand." Later, Ubisoft released a statement saying how they could understand how the quote could be misinterpreted and that the game was never intended for anything more than what it is being released at. So who is really at fault here? If you look at the gaming community, you'll see a plethora of fanboy-incited videos blaming each other's consoles for the reason. PlayStation owners who follow this path are only led to believe that this action was made because the Xbox One cannot handle the graphics capability that the PlayStation 4 can, and creating parity does mean making an equal product. While there may be some legitimacy behind this, there are plenty of Xbox One titles that have 1080p capabilities that seemingly have been swept underneath the rug as if they had never happened. Further proof that the 1080p is a weak point for the Xbox One, however, is the fact that 343 Industries recently stated that Halo 2 will not be running at native 1080p, but it will maintain the 60 frame per second. However, if we look at the CPU, both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One run a custom AMD Jaguar. PlayStation 4 is clocked at 1.6 GHz. The Xbox One is clocked at 1.75 GHz. While only a bit better than the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One boasts a more powerful CPU when it comes to processing. The best example of this is through Dead Rising, where the seemingly endless zombie mobs are able to crowd the screen. Each mob is accounted for an AI that has to be processed. Much different from the processing graphical fidelity. Based on verbiage, this is what Ubisoft claims to have an issue. Though is that the actual issue? If I were to blame a party, I would blame Ubisoft themselves. This is not the first time that Ubisoft has been caught with a foul and poorly communicated statement to back up their actions. Just over the past year, Ubisoft has been caught locking down the PC port of Watch Dogs to maintain graphical fidelity with the console versions. They also have been caught using difficulty as an excuse not to create female characters in Assassin's Creed games. This is a company that over and over has told consumers terrible information to cover up their own tracks. And this does make me sad because if I had one game that I was most anticipating coming up, it would have been The Division. If Ubisoft is truly holding back graphics on the PlayStation 4 for the Xbox One, that is a complete and utter mistake that they should be held accountable for. If Ubisoft is truly holding graphics back on the PlayStation 4 for parity with the Xbox One because of CPU processing, that again is a complete and utter mistake and they should be held accountable. I am choosing not to purchase Assassin's Creed Unity for multiple reasons. One, I don't believe that Ubisoft has been transparent enough with the consumers to enable me to purchase the game without having a guilty conscience. Giving them money when I myself am unsure of their practices of recent is essentially making me an enabler of consumer malpractice. It tells Ubisoft that it is okay to make such bold statements and use a fanboy war in order to keep their name in media spotlight. And two, personally, I've never been a big fan of the Assassin's Creed series, and Unity is just not a title that intrigues me. So what do you all think? Do you think that Ubisoft should be held accountable, or do you think that it's the console's fault of the recent resolution debacle? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Alright y'all, I thank you for watching my video. I hope that you rate and subscribe, and happy gaming.